It is a book of Alejandro Dumas, tells the story of Edmond Dantes, a man arrived at the port of Marseille and fell in love with Mercedes. But Fernando also loves her and by feels Edmundo accused of being a Bonapartist agent, imprisoned without trial previous in the island of Eve. During the imprisonment, Dantes begins to despair. He begins praying to God for his liberation, but he continues to suffer year after year. And at the same time, he tries to commit suicide by not eating. When he fails in his suicide attempt, he attacks the world when he goes to leave him food. He also fails, and they consider him a madman, and they transfer him to a dungeon for highly dangerous prisoners. Again try to reach starvation, but when he is about to die, he begins to will to live by listening to the sound that producing another prisoner to dig to escape. He meets the other prisoner, Dave Faria, who in his attempt to escape dug in the wrong direction and came the Edmond cell, with whom he forms a very good friendship and he comes to consider him as his son. Faria becomes his instructor in several subjects from history, mathematics, language, philosophy, physics and chemistry. While together they dig towards the other side of the cell, trying to escape from the castle. As a result of his conversation with Faria, Dantes begins to put together the bias of history that condemned him to his current penury. Faria makes him see that the accusing letter was written with the left hand, and by an obvious grudge against him. Edmond and Faria work long hours in the tunnel to escape, but the old and fragile Faria does not survive to see it finished. He paralyzes because of second stroke, and dies in the third spell. Seeing himself dying, Faria entrusts to Dantes the hiding place of a great treasure in the island of MonteCristo. That amount, the what today will be approximately $1,000 million. He surprised at first he distrusts the ape because that is the theme that won him his nickname to Crazy Ape. By the words, when Faria dies, the words wrap his body in heavy blanket. Dantes thinks they take the place of Faria's corpse and take the real corpse to the other cell. The jailers, instead of burying the body as supposed, tie a heavy bullet and throw it into the sea by a nervy raven. Dantes escapes from the shore, avoiding the rocks and nothing until a desert island where a stormy night passes. The next day he sees a wrecked ship in the sea, swims toward the wreckage and sees another ship that picks it up, and Edmond pretends to be shipwrecked men because of the storm. He makes friends with them, shapes change the name, and dedicates himself from time to being a smuggler. Several of the transactions made by the smugglers were on the island of MonteCristo. As this is desert island and without any apparent attraction, Edmond spends several hours and several trips to know the surroundings of the island, still doubting what his old friend told him. One day on the island of MonteCristo, suspecting where the treasure is, he goes hunting a goat to it and pretends the felt of the rocks. His companions help him move, but he alleges that he is really injured, and that he cannot move, with the excuse that he could delay the imminent expedition of the smugglers. He asks them to leave and to come back for him 6 days later. When his work finished on Edmond loses the word from sight. He stands up and finds the treasure. Later, taking part for the fortune in making a name of himself investigation and amassing more money, he returns to city of Marseille to resume contact with his loved ones, but only finds despair. Taking different personalities from an Italian about to an English banker. 10 years after his trip to Marseille, Dantes begins his quest for revenge by disguising himself as a count of MonteCristo. Um, this book was the first book that I read. It was recommended because my grandma. I like a lot of pirates and revenge stories. In some moments of the book, I was heavy because it seemed that I did not advance especially. The time I was in jail. I recommend it to people who like adventure stories, although this is based more on revenge. The fragment that I liked the least was the jail and perhaps the fragment from before the incarceration of Dantes. This book I like a lot because it's more attractive for me because I like the period stories and revenge, and this book is very interesting.